So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Kaduki back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, April 7th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Wednesday, April 7th here today. Yankees coming off of a big win, 7-2, another dominant performance against the Orioles. Something about the Yankees and the Orioles, they just destroy the Orioles, just destroy them and continue to destroy them. Today we go for the series sweep. John Means on the mound for the Orioles, and Jameson Taillon making his season debut, making his Yankee debut for the New York Yankees today. Big Jammo is on the mound. Hopefully he can, hopefully he can finish out this series, and hopefully we get the sweep. Obviously that would be really great. And that'd be really great. I think it's gonna be. I hope that we get the series win. Obviously, we're 3-2 right now. It'd be great to go 4-2 while we head into that Rays series coming up. To be honest, that Rays series early in the season, if you look at all the series, the first month of April, that's a big series early in the season. You would love to get off to a nice quick start against your division rivals, against a team that you're going to be battling with for the rest of the season. So obviously, we all know the Orioles are not in the winning mode yet. They're still rebuilding. We obviously know the Red Sox are still rebuilding. Blue Jays, I think, are going to be the second place team. I still think the Yankees could very well win it, and I think it's the Rays, but the Rays have been playing really well. So, this series coming up, obviously the Yankees want to focus on today, get the win today, and then we can focus on the Rays series that starts up tomorrow. But you got to also realize at the same time, it would be great for the New York Yankees here I think it would be awesome to win today's game and then to at least take, 2 out of 3 against the Rays. You would love them to sweep. But the Rays are a good team. They're going to be a tough team to beat. I don't know if they face Glasnow in that series because he pitched yesterday. So he might not pitch during that whole series, which really helps us out. Because outside of Glasnow, that pitching rotation is good. It's not like Glasnow. It's not like it was with Blake Snell and Joe Musgrove. Or not Joe Musgrove, I rather Charlie Morton. But yeah, still, it would be that's one of those series that's big in the beginning of the season. If you could sweep, that's amazing, or at least win the series. That's one of those series you want to get off to a quick start, because that's what the Yankees did last season. All season long, they were trailing the Rays. They were trailing. The entire year, we're trying to make up ground. We're never able to completely get in front of the Rays, and that's why they didn't win the division. So obviously the Yankees will finish out the series today against the Orioles. I'm feeling confident about the game. I know John Means pitched well against the Red Sox, but the Yankees' bats just come alive against the Orioles. No matter who's on the mound, the Yankees just seem to dominate the Orioles, so I'm confident about today's game. The rest of New York sports yesterday, Nets had a day off. Also, along with the Knicks, so both basketball teams yesterday were off. The Rangers played yesterday. They got the good win, 8-4, another big win by the Rangers. It's odd that this is happening so much for the New York Rangers. When they had a 9-goal game, we were all so surprised, and myself included. And then you get into the next 8-goal game, and yesterday they had another 8-goal game. So the Rangers are, it's weird. The Rangers are just an inconsistent team. We're hot one minute, then we're cold, and that's kind of the story of the Rangers. But hopefully we can try to build some consistency off of this win. I'm surprised we beat the Penguins yesterday. I'm going to be surprised. We play 8 games against the Penguins this season. So far we've played 7. We're 2-5 in those games. Going into yesterday, we were 1-5 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Okay, that's terrible. And today we play tomorrow actually, we play our final game against the Penguins to wrap out the season series. So far, the Rangers, we got to start winning games. We are 5 points behind a wild card spot, and there's only 18, 19, 20 games left in the season. So season's coming towards the tail end. We actually 19 games because I believe we played 38. So 18 games left, I believe. And that's what everyone's been saying. It's going to come down to the final 15 to 10 games. So realistically, this is it for the Rangers here. You got 18 games left in the season. What do you want to do with those 18 games? we'll see how it all plays out. So that they play yesterday. The Nets played today. ESPN game. So for those of you who don't get Yes Network, you will be able to watch the game today as it's on ESPN against the Pelicans. KD's back. Kyrie's obviously still in the lineup. Harden's out, but at least KD's back, which is good. So we lose one of our big three, but then we get one back. So, as long as I always say this, as long as it's not one of them, we should be good. Because one of them, it's tough to win. Because you could have one really good player on a team, it could be tough to win. 2, 3, or more, it's really easy to win. So tonight, Nets play the Pelicans. Should be good. Yankees will finish out the season series against the Orioles. Try to sweep the Orioles today as Jammo makes his season debut. So hopefully everything goes well with them. These are topics for today. An interesting thing happened yesterday with the New York Yankees. The Yankees traded for Rougned Odor. I think that's how you say his name. I'm not great with his name, so I'm mostly just going to call him Odor because his last name is very easy to say. It's Odor. His first name is tough. Rougned Odor. It's a tough first name to say. I don't know if it's Roughned, whatever. I'm going to call it Rougned Odor because that's how it kind of looks. But the Yankees traded for him. So the Yankees trade for Odor. This is an interesting move, a move that caught a lot of us off guard, a move that not many of us saw coming, and if you did, props to you. I don't think any Yankees fan out there said, the Yankees are going to go out and get Odor. I don't think many saw that. But yeah, the Yankees make this interesting move. So the Yankees pick up a second baseman from the Texas Rangers. We trade for Odor. We give up 2 prospects, which are not much. They're not our highest graded prospects. They're just guys in our farm system. And the Texas Rangers obviously are a rebuilding team, so they will gladly take those prospects over Odor. So I'm going to get into it. This isn't a move that's going to, Rougned Odor, he's grown a name for himself in the MLB. A couple events he has had happen where he's grown a name for himself. But, this is a guy who has struggled last season, has struggled the past couple years. When he first came into the league, he crashed onto the scene. He looked like one of the most talented up-and-coming rising stars ever. He looked like a guy that could be, he just looked like one of the more upcoming rising stars. He looked like a guy that could turn into one of the better players in the league. And he was very good his first couple seasons, and in the past 2 or 3, he's been kind of down and not that good. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to tell you why this move's very interesting. I don't like the move. I don't hate the move. I'm kind of in neutral with it. It's a depth addition. He's not going to play much. We're going to bring lefty power on a short porch right field. So, maybe that's why. But it's not a move that's going to make or break a World Series. I can tell you that. So we're going to get into that. Then we're going to get into the MLB. The NHL Trade Deadline is now 5 days away. April 2nd is the NHL Trade Deadline. Or April 12th, I should say. Sorry about that. So April 12th is the NHL Trade Deadline. So I was going to get into some of the rumors. So Taylor Hall rumors, a big name throughout the NHL. A guy who grew a name for himself when he was, with the Devils and all that. I believe, he was a finalist, and I believe he won the MVP, I think, or he was at least up there. But Taylor Hall, who traded to the Sabres, who got picked up by the Sabres in free agency. The Sabres signed him to a 1-year deal. Well, yesterday the Sabres made him a healthy scratch. So it looks like he's going to be traded. It's just a matter of to who and when is he going to get traded. So it looks like Taylor Hall, all signs are pointing towards he's going to get traded. We're going to figure out where he's going to get traded. I don't think it's going to be the Rangers. So I know all the people out there who think I might be talking about this because it's involving the Rangers. I don't think it's going to be the Rangers. The name of the Rangers hasn't even popped up. But I do believe he's going to go to a contender. Which the Rangers are a contender, but he's not going to go to the Rangers. I can guarantee that. A contender means a team that's already in the playoffs. So probably, for example, a team like the Penguins, a team like the Bruins. Like a Bruins, for example. There's been a lot of rumors surrounding the Bruins with him going to the Bruins for Jake DeBrusk. So there could be that. Bruins, a team that's trying to hold into their playoff spot. You bring another talented guy, a veteran, into the locker room, try to make that playoff push and succeed at it. So we're going to get into that. We're going to finish off with New York sports update. Yankees play today. Nets play today. So that's good. Rangers have a day off. They will play tomorrow as they play the Penguins to finish out their season series against them. So, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Rougned Odor traded to Yankees from Rangers for 2 prospects. So this move is very, very, very interesting. And I want to first off note that this is a move, right? A lot of times when moves happen, people are like, ooh, we got that guy, we got this guy, we got that. It happens a lot with the Nets. When the Nets pick up a player, everyone's like, oh, look at the Nets' loaded roster now. Or look at this team's loaded roster. Or they pick up, or an NFL team picks up one receiver and says, oh, this offense is dominant. That's not true. So the New York Yankees made this, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, that's not true. When you pick up a player, it doesn't always mean that your team all of a sudden turns dominant. So I first off want to say this in regards to the Rougned Odor trade. This is a trade that's a depth addition. It's a move that is a guy, we're bringing in a power bat. We're bringing in a guy with tremendous power, a guy who we've seen throughout his career hit long home runs. He's, I believe, the first player in history or something to go 2 seasons with 30 for his first 2 seasons, hit 30-plus home runs. So we're getting a guy that's going to hit a lot of home runs. And he's a lefty. So he's a guy that's going to hit a lot of those home runs. He's a very good pull hitter. The Yankees have a short porch in right field. We need lefties that are power so we can hit that short porch. And we need righties like Judge that can hit opposite field like we've seen already happen this season. 2 days ago in the first game of the Orioles series, Judge obviously hit another long one yesterday into the bleachers in left field. Judge had a phenomenal day, by the way. 3 for 5. 2 singles and a home run? Yeah, 2 singles and a home run. So he had an excellent day, which I love to see out of Judge. Because this is a guy who's not striking out much at all anymore this season so far. Through the first 5 games. And this is also a guy who, is starting to hit more contact. And that's what the Yankees need. Base runners. Because solo home runs aren't always going to do the job. You need these big hits in big games. So back to the Rougned Odor. This is not a trade that's going to make or break a World Series. This is a very interesting move, to say the least. And a lot of times this happens. And this could be the Yankees thinking when making this trade. The Yankees could be thinking while they were making this trade. There's a lot of times where sometimes, and I kind of mentioned this yesterday. I know I'm kind of going back and forth with so many different things here because it's very confusing trade. No one really saw this coming. Well, let me get to this thing with the New York Yankees. So we've seen this a lot of times with the New York Yankees, and I mentioned, and then we'll get to more Rougned Odor and stuff like that. So here's the thing with the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees tend to, make moves throughout seasons, make moves to grab players, in this case, make a move to grab a guy that they ultimately think is going to help out the team. Now, he's going to be a backup. He's not going to be a starting second baseman. So, it's a little different with some of the examples I'm going to use here. But Rougned Odor, like I mentioned a little bit ago in the podcast, this is a guy at the beginning of his career, looked like a guy that was going to be a star in the league. Looked like a guy that was going to be an all-star. Looked like a guy who was going to be, the next big thing in the MLB. It's the guy who broke records in his first 2 years of his career. This was a guy who was taking the league by storm. And, not many people talked about him because he was playing for the Texas Rangers. And at the time, it was kind of an interesting, area for the Texas Rangers. Obviously, they got off for the winning the World Series. Couple years, past that. Then you got, obviously, back to the Rangers. But he was a big part of a lot of those Rangers playoff pushes, which is why the Yankees could also tend to be going out and getting him. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure why the Yankees went out and got him. All I know is we are getting Rougned Odor. And something that's interesting with the New York Yankees, we've seen this happen. And we see it happen right now with Gio Urshela. And this is what the Yankees could be thinking. Not only are you bringing a guy with a big-time bat, big-time power to the Yankees with a short porch in right field. He's a big pull hitter. Not only are you bringing that guy, you're also bringing a guy who could possibly thrive in pinstripes. And we saw that with a lot of Yankees so far. We've seen that with a lot of Yankees. And I'm going to bring up a couple examples, right? Gio Urshela. This was a guy who was, I believe, had the worst OPS plus in the MLB. The guy was terrible with the Indians. He actually, against the Yankees, made an error in that divisional round series back in 2017 when the Yankees made that run. He made an error. That ended up losing them that series. Gio Urshela was a no-name. He was a guy that was just stinks. He was not good at all. He was terrible. He came to the New York Yankees, got his opportunity with Miguel Andujar going down. He got his opportunity, and boom, just like that, all of a sudden, you got a guy that's making plays at third base and also a really good hitter. That's a guy who, when he put on pinstripes, something about him changed. He just was so dominant. And maybe it was because he worked harder. He realized, you know what, I've got to start a role now. I can't lose this. Maybe it was just the fact that he was bouncing around between minors and majors his whole career. He was never able to get the proper opportunity. He did have all this skill. So we saw that with Gio Urshela, a guy who, when he put on the pinstripes, was just so dominant. We saw that with a guy, this is might be a little bit of an odd one, but we saw it with Todd Frazier a little bit, right? This was a guy the Yankees got. He was good. He was very good with the Reds. I really shouldn't even say I shouldn't say this isn't a great example with Todd Frazier, because this is a guy who was good his entire career, who had a good career and all that when he was winning the home run derby and all that. But it was kind of happened with Todd Frazier, right? It kind of looked like he was towards the tail end of his career. He wasn't very good. He came to the New York Yankees, and he showed flashes of the Todd Frazier we saw back when he was in his prime. That's another example. Another example is Ronald Torreyes, a guy who was kind of bouncing around all through minor leagues and stuff, got his opportunity in the Yankees as a utility guy, and just bursted onto the scene and was solid when he got his opportunities. So there's multiple examples for the New York Yankees. When they come to the Yankees, they're it's just something different about them. And a lot of players will say that. And also sometimes players, when they put on the pinstripes, it's a negative, right? For example, James Paxton, it was a negative. He was very good with the Mariners, put on the pinstripes, it was a negative. That's a small market kind of player. Sonny Gray was good with the A's, all that, came to the Yankees, was not that good. It was a negative. It was terrible, actually. So there's obviously always those negatives as well. So there's obviously J. Happ, although he wasn't great with the Blue Jays anyway, so you can't even say that. He regressed a little bit, but he wasn't even that good with the Blue Jays. So yeah, obviously, those are a couple examples. So one of two things could happen when you join the New York Yankees. It could either be, you thrive, like Gio Urshela, like I mentioned, a little bit of Todd Frazier, where he kind of looked like he was in the downfall of his career. Then he went to the Yankees, and it was almost like his career got revamped a little bit. Right, we saw that. There's been players, too, of like Gardner. He's made a living out of being a New York Yankee. Guy's been a New York Yankee for 14 years. He's benefited from it. He came to the team. At first, he had to start out. He had to earn a spot on the roster. He got there, and he's been there ever since. That's a guy right there that has just worn pinstripes his whole career and has thrived with pinstripes on. So that's another guy there. So there's a lot of guys, and that's where I think the Yankees' thought process is here. Not so much saying hope that he puts on the pinstripes and he turns into Rougned Odor we saw early in his career. But I think a lot of the thought process is you're getting a guy with good left-handed power. You're getting a guy in the right field porch, in the short right field porch. You're getting a guy that, obviously now in his career is kind of a veteran. You're ultimately getting a guy that hopefully helps you depth-wise. And this is what I mean. This is not a move that's going to make or break the Yankees World Series. This is a depth addition. He's not starting over DJ LeMahieu. LeMahieu's locked in there at second base. Then Odor will probably the second, which then makes an interesting situation for Tyler Wade. The Yankees, by the way, have already made some moves with this deal. The Yankees have decided to option Michael King and also option or put Michael King to the alternate site and option Thairo Estrada, which is interesting because Thairo Estrada which is going to be interesting to see. Thairo Estrada is a good young player, and this is a guy who has done a pretty good job with the opportunity he's got. Has he been amazing? No, but he's been solid. He hasn't gotten many opportunities. So, if you're going to ask me who would I rather, Estrada or Odor, you're talking about getting on base, it's probably Estrada because Odor doesn't get on base much. He's more of a home run hitter. It's just an interesting move. It's just interesting because, it's just one of these moves that, it's not one of those things that you just sit there and think like, oh, this move makes sense. I don't think the Yankees don't really need a second baseman, but Cashman went out and got one anyway. And I was surprised to see Michael King get optioned because this was a guy who, if you didn't see on opening day, he was dominant on opening day. Or I believe it was opening day, right? No, it wasn't opening day. It was Germán's start. He pitched the rest of the game, right? Germán only went 3-4 innings. He pitched the rest of that game, 5-6 innings. He was just dominant. And to see him got optioned and bring down to the alternate site was very interesting. And to the Texas Rangers side of this deal, they're getting 2 prospects. Whether those prospects do anything or not, whether those are just guys that are just going to sit in their minor leagues for a long time, whatever the case may be, they're getting 2 prospects. So what they do with those prospects, I don't know. Do they bring them up because the Rangers are a rebuilding team right now? Do they, decide to use them? They're not the Yankees' highest ranked prospects, which when I saw that it was, when I heard about this deal, and I saw that the Yankees were giving up 2 prospects. Cashman has had a bad habit of giving up some of our top prospects for players that have not worked out with the New York Yankees. We saw with Paxton, he gave up Joshua Sheffield. Paxton was terrible with us. We've seen it a couple times with him where he gives up our top prospects for guys. We've seen it a couple times with him where you give up a couple prospects. And the Yankees are also getting some cash considerations in this deal as well. So the Rangers very well could use those prospects. They're not the Yankees' highest ranked prospects, so whether you take them or leave them, whatever the case may be. But obviously the Rangers see some value here. Although the Rangers did make note to Odor when the spring training was over, they said you're going to be moved to the alternate site. So we don't even know what shape Odor's in, whether he's hitting well. We don't even know what he's done. He's been in the alternate site for the Texas Rangers, so we have really no clue how he's doing, what he's doing. We'll see how it all plays out. So, let's get into this quick article here. Rougned Odor traded to Yankees from Rangers for 2 prospects. The New York Yankees acquired second baseman Rougned Odor in cash considerations from the Texas Rangers in exchange for minor league outfielders Antonio Cabello and Josh Stowers on Tuesday. ESPN's Jeff Passman was the first to report a deal was being finalized. The Rangers left Odor off their opening day roster for this season, at which point President of Baseball Operations John Daniels indicated this 27-year-old future was likely playing elsewhere. Odor makes $12 million in 2021 and 2022 before he has a $13.5 million club option before 2023 that includes $3 million buyout. Passer reported the Rangers are expected to absorb almost the entirety of the $27 million owed, which is good. The Yankees aren't paying him much. It's pretty much the Rangers that are going to pay him a lot of the money because of the dead cap and the amount of absorbed money. That the Rangers would not only trade Odor, but also take a lot of his outstanding money in order to do so, and an indicator as to how much his on-field value has fallen in recent seasons. In 2016, a 22-year-old Odor had 33 home runs, 88 RBIs, and a 271, 296, 502 slash line. He finished 14th in WAR 2.5, which was he finished 14th in WAR 2.5 among second basemen per Fangraphs. Since then, the Venezuela native is batting .215 with a 279 on base percentage per Baseball Reference. His strikeouts 514 have far outpaced his hits 374 as well. Still, Odor is a worthwhile gamble for the Yankees, especially since they won't be paying his full salary. New York already has an everyday second baseman in DJ LeMahieu, so this trade is about adding depth to the middle of the infield and getting a left-handed slugger to provide a platoon advantage. The short porch in right field could work to Odor's benefit too. Shortstop Didi Gregorius had 22 home runs through his first 4 seasons before exploding for 20 in 2016. His second as a Yankee, granted Gregorius made contact at a far better rate than Odor, so they're not exactly the same starting point when they embarked on their Yankees tenures. In general, there doesn't appear to be too much downside for the Yankees. They already have so much offensive depth, so they won't suffer too much if Odor struggles at the plate carry over in 2021. And like I said, it's an interesting move. It's a move that caught us a lot by surprise. But it's a low risk deal. And I wouldn't even say it's a high reward because he's not going to be playing much. It's a low risk, decent reward. If it works out, you're getting a guy that's going to hit a couple home runs here and there, which I guess is a good thing. It's not a guy that's going to be playing every day. So Don't be concerned by that. And you already see, the Yankees offense with Odor is stacked. This is a guy who's not going to be playing every day. He's going to play, but he's not going to be playing every day. And there's a possibility that he could also play DH, right? That's a possibility too. He could play DH, which then creates an interesting situation with Stanton, whether he plays DH or not. And Odor, who do you put in? I guess if Stan's just off that day, then I guess you maybe slide Odor into that DH role. Because LeMahieu, he's a guy that doesn't take too many off days. He's a guy that's going to play a lot. So Odor's going to have to wait for his opportunity. And I hope the Yankees don't rest DJ to get Odor at bats, because I would rather DJ out there than Odor. But it's a low-risk addition. It's kind of just getting a flyer. It's kind of a guy that was out there. The Yankees called up. They kind of said, hey, can we have this guy? Rangers said, hey, sure. The Rangers were obviously looking to get rid of him. So it's not like if the Yankees would try to make this move in 2016, the Yankees would have had to given up a lot more than 2 prospects. And like I said, maybe this is a deal where the Yankees give up 2 prospects and Odor turns into the Odor we saw a couple years ago when he was hitting over 3 or 30 home runs a season and batting .271, right? But this is a guy he's going to strike out a lot. He's going to strike out a lot. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think it's going to be an interesting move for the New York Yankees. It's a low-risk move. Kind of just got a flyer. And I wanted to get into some of these stats against with Odor. So obviously Jay Bruce, he was obviously brought in by the Yankees. He had a lot of good left-handed power, short porch. So that was kind of why he was brought in. Also was brought in because Voit was out with the injury. But I wanted to read this. So another reason there. The Yankees are kind of getting a lot of lefty power, which is the truth. So yeah. So in Rougned Odor's career, he is markedly better versus right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers. And the New York Yankees really need left-handed balance. It'll be interesting to see if they broach the subject of him accepting days in the minors to work on his swing and attempt whatever adjustments the New York Yankees have in mind. So that was interesting there. He's better at right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers, which is good. He's better. Yeah, he's better versus right-handers and left-handers. So, but they do need a left-handed balance. So, yeah. And then also another thing here, another stat here, was in those 4 terrible years, 2017 2020, Odor did hit 88 home runs. So there is left-handed power, same reason Jay Bruce was brought in by the Yankees. So there's left-handed, like I mentioned, left-handed power, short porch. You connect the dots, it makes sense. It's a low-risk move, though. It's not a move that's going to help us anyway. It's not a move that's going to, make us, even better. But it is a move. It's a move that it is gonna hopefully make us better. But this is a guy who's he's gonna strike out a lot. So Yankees fans are gonna have to get used to that. He's gonna strike out a lot. We saw in there he struck out more than he's gotten hits, which is kind of worrisome in a way. But it's just something. You wonder where all of his talent went. This was a guy who was so good his first couple seasons, and it's just like it's all just flown out the window. So let's get into some of the other stats here, and then we'll finish out this podcast, then finish out this topic here. So Rougned Odor, he's 27 years old now. He's batting left. He bats lefty and throws righty, obviously. So his career stats, he's batting .237 with 146 RBI, 146 home runs, 458 RBIs, and an OPS of 728. He's been on the Texas Rangers his entire career, so he's been with them for a long time. Last season, the shortened season, did not do well at all. He batted .167. This is a guy who's got a power hitting average. He's got a power hitting average. You can't do anything about that. Career, he's .237, but in his career, he's hit 458 home runs. Not 458 home runs. 146 home runs, including three 30-home run seasons. 33 home runs in 2016, 30 home runs in 2017, 30 home runs in 2019. So he has had a lot of home runs. He averages 21 per season. He's a guy that's going to add about 65 RBIs. This is with him playing every day. Another thing I noticed too here is this is a guy who doesn't miss many games. 114 games, 120, 150, 162. He did play the full 162. Then 129, then 145. And last season, a 60-game season, he played 38, which isn't much, but still over half the season. So this is a guy who plays a lot of games. He doesn't miss much. But you look at the strikeout numbers, I mean, they're up there. He's going to average about 114 strikeouts a year, which is a lot. But that's power hitting for you. And you look at the season where he hit the most home runs, he had his second most strikeouts. The season he had the most strikeouts was 178. That was the year where he batted 205 but cranked in 30 home runs. So that's just how it is. There's a lot of guys out there who are going to, obviously, there's a lot of guys out there that are going to, strike out a lot when you turn into a power hitter. His postseason stats, he's had 8 games in the postseason. Obviously, being on the Rangers, they haven't made it much. His postseason has 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, nothing major. I mean, he's only had 8 at-bats in the 8 games played. He bats .239. So he's only had 8 games played in the postseason, so you can't even really judge that stuff. So Rougned Odor. Yankees kind of got him on a flyer, a cheap addition, a low-risk addition. We'll see how it plays out. Coming up next, though, I thought this was very interesting. It's not surprising, but it definitely catches your eye. So Taylor Hall, it was a healthy scratch by the Buffalo Sabres. Trade deadline is nearing in the NHL, and Taylor Hall was a healthy scratch. We'll get in to him coming up next here. Alrighty, so obviously as the NHL trade deadline nears, we're going to hear a lot about different players and the situations regarding those different players. So we've already seen a lot of guys. We've already seen many players kind of sit out. So right now, Kyle Palmieri of the New Jersey Devils, he is out right now. They're scratching him from the lineup as they look to trade him. Another guy who is obviously Taylor Hall. Not many other healthy scratches, but there's been guys that are out there that are that teams are willing to give up. For example, the Rangers. There's been a lot of rumors flying around giving up Brendan Smith, which I think that's going to happen. As we trade Brendan Smith. Ryan Strome, there's been a lot of rumors flying around. This is a guy who's had an excellent year, so maybe you think you can get a lot for him, which would be interesting to see. Ryan Strome's been so good. He added on another goal and an assist yesterday. Has been so good this season, which is kind of interesting because a guy you don't want. Brendan Smith, he's a guy that's he's just been all right. So we'll see how it all plays out. But there's been a lot of that, and we see this throughout all leagues where players will begin healthy scratches. And the reason they're healthy scratches is because number one, sometimes the teams just kind of want them out, and they kind of just want to look for a trade. Another thing, too, is if they get injured, that their value is going to increasingly go down, right? If Taylor Hall gets injured in a game, you forget about trying to trade him, and that could be a missed opportunity for you to get an asset. So, and to be honest, Taylor Hall has not had a good year this year at all. He's been terrible. Now, I could talk about the Sabres, too. They've been terrible. Sabres are the worst team in NHL. And yes, they've won 3 games here. They got another one last night. But, yes, I know they're on a 2-game win streak, but they're terrible. They're still the worst team in NHL. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're looking to sell a lot of players. They're looking to get rid of Taylor Hall. They might, they've already gotten rid of Stahl. They've already gotten rid of Eric Stahl. They're looking, obviously, to get rid of Taylor Hall now. So, there's a lot of stuff. But the reason they usually healthy scratch him is because to avoid them getting injured. Because let's just say Taylor Hall gets injured. And it's something that's going to hold him out for the rest of the season. Well, those contenders, those teams that were looking at him are going to be like, no, dumb. No, that's a dumb to go out and get him. He's done for the season. And then the Sabres, then he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so you don't get anything for him. So you're going to healthy scratch Taylor Hall. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Sabres do with him and how much they get for him. Because you got to realize, Taylor Hall, he's only about 2-3 years removed from being one of the best players in the NHL. When he was with the Devils, he was so dominant. This was a guy who was just so good. It was almost like he was just so good. Like, no one really knew how, like, he was just so dominant. Many people didn't really know how he was that good. He was one of the best, probably the best player in the NHL at the time. Everyone was talking about Taylor Hall. He was the talk of the league. I even found it out when he was a free agent this year. I wanted the Rangers to go out and get him. At the beginning of this year, he was the prize of free agency. There was teams going out and getting him, looking at him. He was the prize of free agency. And now he joins the Sabres, and he's just been flat out terrible. So it creates an interesting situation here. What the Sabres decide to do with him. Do you trade him to a contender? Do you trade him to a team that might have more young talent? Obviously, I'm sure teams that are having young talent, I don't know what they're going to give up. There's been a rumor that's been flying around a lot with the Sabres about them trading him to the Bruins for DeBrusk, which is very well a possibility. This was a guy who was in 2018 was the NHL MVP. 2018, the NHL MVP. And now we're talking about 3 years later about the guy. He is 29 years old now, but a guy who, everyone thought was the prize of free agency, and a guy who the Sabres thought they got a real guy, real Taylor Hall coming in, right? The Sabres thought, we got Eichel, Taylor Hall, we got some young talent and like Ristolainen and all them. Man, we look like a good team. And sure enough, that wasn't the case. That was not the case whatsoever. So this is an interesting development here. But the Sabres are going through a rebuild. So, and this is what's so surprising with the Buffalo Sabres is they're going through a rebuild. So this is a team that's going to completely strip down. They've got guys like Ristolainen and their goalie Olmark and a couple guys here and there. But even Reinhart, Oposo, Taylor Hall, I bet you will all be on the move very well soon. And Rasmus Dahlin, he's struggled, but you got to hope that maybe he can try to find a little bit of a spark. Their first overall pick from a couple years ago. He has just not been the same. He's been better recently, like with, getting to the puck, making passes, reading the game in a different way. He's been better recently, but he's still not putting the puck in the back of the net, and he's still not doing enough to help the team win. Obviously, no one's doing enough to help the team win. So we'll see how this all plays out. Now, if you want to wonder if Jack Eichel is going to get traded, I don't think Jack Eichel is going to get traded. Do I think they trade him in the offseason? Yes. But I don't think they trade him right now because he does have a neck injury. Now, could they be having him on IR because they want to just trade him? That could be a possibility. But you don't want to use your IR in that way as well because you also might want to put some other guys on IR. So that could be a possibility. Maybe they put him on IR with a neck injury, but maybe he's better now and they're not really kind of say anything and they're still going to try to trade him. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I mean, it stinks to be the Sabres, and I kind of feel this way because I've had this as a sports team, the Jets, a couple years ago, right? We thought we had the team, right? Back in the first year of Gay's, second year for Darnold, we got Le'Veon Bell, we got C.J. Mosley, we got out and got Jamison Crowder, right? We got a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, Kelechi Osemele, right? We got all those guys, and it looked like the team was going to be. It looked like a lot of people had us making the playoffs. We got one of the best running backs in the league in Le'Veon Bell. We got one of the best linebackers in the league in C.J. Mosley. Let alone we already had Darnold, who was coming into his second year. We got Jamison Crowder. We already had a deep threat in Robbie Anderson. Then you had guys like Marcus May and Jamal Adams in the backfield. You're looking, and then Leonard Williams too. You're looking like, and Quincy Enunwa when he's on the field. You're looking like, oh my gosh, this team looks really good. This is a team that's going to be really solid. I can't wait to watch this team. And everyone's like, the Jets very well could make the playoffs this season. And sure enough, they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't do any of that. And they ended up falling 7-9. And now we stand here where Bell's off the team. Darnold just got traded, and hopefully we, obviously draft the right quarterback like Zach Wilson and move on and stuff. But this is not a Jets segment. But still, that's kind of how the Sabres felt this season. They already had Jack Eichel. Then they went out and got Taylor Hall. followed by having Linus Allmark. Then you got Ristolainen, who's a young and up-and-coming guy, right? So you got a lot of guys. You got good guys. Mainly Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel. Taylor Hall arguably was one of the better free agents out there that you got in and picked up for 1 year, $8 million deal. And then Jack Eichel, add him, and you're like, oh my gosh, this team could be competitive. You got almost like a little bit of a two-headed monster going there. And it's not like the two-headed monster of Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, but it's still a little bit of a two-headed monster you got going there. You still got a little bit of all right, these guys are going to be fun to watch. And the Sabres are sitting here now looking to get rid of Taylor Hall, and I think more than likely we'll get rid of Jack Eichel in the offseason because he's injured right now. So it's tough for the Sabres. And to be honest, if you're going to ask me before I read this article, if you're going to wonder like what I think is wrong with Taylor Hall, I just think it's the Sabres offense. Right? He's a guy he likes to attack a lot to the net. He's a guy that likes to get a lot of opportunities in front of the net. He's a guy that likes to, really pound the zone. The Sabres offense is not very good fit. It's almost like trying to put a guy that's not a scheme fit into that scheme. And that's the bad part. And the Sabres are kind of doing that. They're bringing in a guy that's not fit to the Sabres offensive scheme, and they're trying to put him into that. And for a guy that like Taylor Hall, who's been in the league for a little bit now, won an NHL MVP, is 29 years old, right? He's a little bit older now. For a guy that's been in the NHL for a long time, it's a guy that's worked under that scheme for a long time to then join a new scheme with a new team. It just doesn't work out. And with their old coach Ralph Kruger, who got fired, their scheme was not good for him. He was struggling. And now with Dan Granato, who's their new coach, it said, it's interesting. So, it's just interesting to see how it all plays out here for Taylor Hall. But they're going to trade him. I mean, they're going to trade him. They're sitting him out ahead of the trade deadline. Dan Granato, the head coach, the interim head coach, literally said that he is. And is this something that just... Is this something now, if he joins a new team, will he just have a spark? That could also be an option. He might not feel motivated because he's been terrible this year. He might not feel motivated to play for a team that's done with the playoffs. If he goes to a new team that's in the playoffs right now or contending, he might feel motivated. You know what? We've got a playoff push to make, right? No one's talking about the Sabres. No one at all. So, it's a very interesting situation for them. Well, let me read this quick article. Buffalo Sabres winger Taylor Hall sitting out ahead of trade deadline. Taylor Hall will not dress for the Buffalo Sabres in Tuesday's road game against the New Jersey Devils. A sign of the winger is likely on the move ahead of the April 12th trade deadline. Buffalo interim coach Dan Granato confirmed the move, saying 23-year-old Arttu Ristolainen could be ready to step up and make his NHL debut in Hall's absence. It's a part of the business, Granato said. We all know that. Taylor knows that. This game keeps you in the moment, and that's the preparation for New Jersey. We had a good meeting on them this morning, and our focus points objectives going into the game. So there's enough there, enough intensity to keep you focused where you should be. Hall, the 2018 NHL MVP, signed a 1-year, $8 million contract with the Sabres this offseason. The 29-year-old has had a no-movement clause, but when asked last month whether he'd be willing to listen to trade options if approached by GM Kenyon Adams, Hall responded, "Yeah, sure." The Sabres have been one of the league's biggest disappointments this season after enduring an 18-game winless streak, the longest of the salary cap era. The firing of Coach Ralph Kruger in March, Buffalo is poised to miss the playoffs for the 10th consecutive season. It is the NHL's longest postseason drought. Hall has just 2 goals and 19 assists in 37 games this season, along with a career-worst -21 rating. He was traded from New Jersey to Arizona last season for a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and 3 prospects. The Devils retained 50% of Hall's contract. Hall, an 11-year veteran who was drafted number 1 overall by Edmonton in 2010, has appeared in only 14 playoff games. The Sabres Devils tilt will also feature another important forward sidelined for precautionary reasons, Kyle Palmieri, who was kept out of Sunday's game. Palmieri's agent, Brian Barlett, confirmed the 30-year-old was sitting out in anticipation of a trade in the coming days or weeks. Palmieri, like Hall, is an unrestricted free agent this summer. Sources tell ESPN that the New York Islanders, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Colorado Avalanche are among the teams interested in the wingers. which makes sense, right? Right, the Anders Lee was out, forward kind of guy, so it makes sense for the Islanders to possibly go out there. The Maple Leafs could just add on to what they've already got built in there with Jake Muzzin, John Tavares, obviously one of the best players in the league, Austin Matthews. So it makes sense for them. Avalanche, maybe if you pair up, Hall with, another star player in McKinnon, that could work out, right? That's another thing, too. Hall's been on his own here. He hasn't really had that kind of guy to, the Sabres roster isn't great right now. So it's kind of tough to, work with. It's kind of that saying, you got to try to work what you got. Well, work with what you got. Well, Taylor Hall's trying to do that. It's just not working out. So, it's the part of the business, as he said. Dan Granado said. So, he literally said it. We all know. But two big names, Kyle Palmieri and Taylor Hall, both going to be heading out. And those are two big names. Those are two guys. Palmieri has made an impact with the Devils. He's been with them for a couple years now. He's definitely made a big impact. And you look at Taylor Hall, he's made an impact with other teams. Went to the Sabres, just not right. So, Sabres fans got to be frustrated. Not only the fact that they are the worst team in NHL, but they got to be frustrated. They already had Jack Eichel. They went out and got Taylor Hall, along with some of the young talent they've got. You would have thought this team would have been a competitive team that would have been battling out for a playoff spot late in the season. And they're not. And they're now selling, and they're now trading away a lot of their guys. And I'm sure Eichel, I think it's a very good possibility Eichel is traded in the offseason. And he's expressed his frustrations with the organization before the season even started. He said he's tired of losing. He's tired of, not making the playoffs. He wants another star in his team. They went out and got Taylor Hall, and it hasn't worked out. And even when Eichel's on the ice, it hasn't worked out. So you can't even say Taylor Hall hasn't been good with Eichel. Eichel hasn't been good with Taylor Hall on the ice, and Taylor Hall hasn't been good without Eichel on the ice. Eichel and Taylor Hall, this whole combo, this experiment just didn't work. And I thought it was going to work. When I heard the deal get done, I thought it was going to work. And actually, when Taylor Hall was available, I wanted the Rangers to go out and try to pursue him. I thought Panarin, Mika, and Taylor Hall, there was some rumors about it. I think the Rangers did have talks with him, but nothing got too far. As that good old saying, nothing got out of the first inning. Really nothing got out of the first inning in those talks. But a lot of teams talked with Hall, though. A lot of teams did. There was a lot of teams that talked with Hall. Probably about 7-8 teams. And he ultimately decided to go to the Sabres. And I think part of that was because of Jack Eichel. And I think part of that was because the Sabres were really trying to pursue Taylor Hall with Jack Eichel saying what he was saying in the offseason about he's tired of losing and he wants the guy to come in. So they went out and got Taylor Hall. You can't say the Sabres didn't go out and get someone. It just hasn't worked out. We've seen this a couple times in sports where teams load up. I shouldn't say the Sabres load up, but teams go out and get a talented guy. It just doesn't work. In that same case here. So the Sabres are on their way to moving Taylor Hall, and maybe, just maybe, there's a possibility of Taylor Hall go to a contending team, and maybe there's a spark in him that he finds a new, he just finds a spark, and he just plays like he was playing previously in his career. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I would say right now, Taylor Hall, he is out of his prime. He's not as good as he used to be, but he could still be a solid player. This season, this is not Taylor Hall. He's just been terrible. And I could read you some of the stats for Taylor Hall. It's just been terrible. And as mentioned, it's a guy who he's only got 18 minutes on time on ice, which is just not good. He's played 37 games this season, 2 goals, 17 assists, a minus 21, which is just awful. Obviously 88 shots on goal. He's only had, he's just not good. He's just not good. And he's only had 2 goals for a guy that throughout his career has been a goal scorer. And actually, he's been known for being a goal scorer because, it's kind of funny because he's been known for a goal scorer. As a matter of fact, when he was with the Devils, towards the end of his run with the Devils, which is the reason they traded him, he was kind of a puck hog. He actually wasn't passing the puck enough. He was scoring. And I don't mean this sarcastically. It's the truth. He was scoring so much, he wasn't spreading the puck out to his teammates, and he was scoring too much. This season, he's not scoring. He scored 2 goals this season. For a guy that we saw when he was in his MVP season, and even, recently, we've seen a guy, he scored 2-3 goals in a game. Hat trick a couple times. So, left winger, Just hasn't worked out for the Sabres. And a guy who's 29 years old, maybe this is it for him. Maybe it's just at the end of his career. Maybe it's just tough. But for a guy that has scored 220 goals in his career, 362 assists, and has had 582 points, just hasn't worked out. So, it's crazy to think that this guy is only 3 years removed from being the NHL MVP, being the best guy in the NHL. It's crazy he's only 3 years removed. And now we're sitting here talking about him getting traded. And, hey, that happens. That happens. A lot of times it happens. It just hasn't worked out for the Buffalo Sabres. And where do the Sabres go from here? The Sabres are going to get a lot of they're going to try to get young talent for him. I don't think they're going to go out and get someone that's good right now. They're going to go out and get maybe a guy they're going to put into their farm system, or get a guy that's going to put overseas and play overseas, and then come up with them. But, this is what stinks about the Sabres. This was a team who, it all is going to start with what coach they hired. But this was a Sabres team who a lot of people thought, including myself, thought they were kind of out of the rebuild a little bit. They were kind of moving out of their rebuild. They were going to be competitive this season. Eichel, Taylor Hall, that on paper, that looks like a team that can do some damage to other teams. Just hasn't worked out. So we'll see what happens with Taylor Hall, where he goes. But whenever he gets traded, I will definitely talk about the NHL trades as they come through. Obviously, April 12th, the trade deadline, so we still got a couple days until that happens. But Paul Mary's going to be on the move. Hall's going to be on the move. I think there's a very good possibility that a couple Rangers might be on the move. I think Brendan Smith is going to get traded. Ryan Strome, I wouldn't trade him right now, but I think he very well could get traded. So there's definitely going to be a couple guys out there that are going to get traded. And obviously, you always get those couple of surprises like we got in the NBA trade deadline. So, should be good. But with all that being said, let's get to the games here for the NBA and stuff. So, yesterday, the Warriors won, Clippers won, Nuggets won, Grizzlies won, Lakers won, 76ers won, Hawks won, and Bulls won. And as for today, we got the Pacers, Timberwolves. I'll give Pacers the win. Magic, Wizards, I'll give Wizards the win. Celtics, Knicks, I'll give Celtics the win. Hawks, Grizzlies, I'll give Hawks the win. Hornets, Thunder, give Hornets the win. Mavericks, Rockets, I'll give Mavericks the win. Nuggets, Spurs, I'll give Nuggets the win. And Jazz, Suns, I'll give Jazz the win. Nets also play today. Nets come to this game 35-16. Pelicans come to this game 22-28. This game comes on today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. I'll give the Nets the win. KD is back. Harden's out. But hopefully with KD and Kyrie, they can do some damage. I will give the Nets the win. As for the NHL, the Ducks won, Predators won, Bruins won, Hurricanes won, Blue Jackets won, Islanders won, Sabres won, and Blackhawks won. Rangers also won yesterday 8-4. We moved to 18-15-5 on the season. A big win. Blackwell with a goal and an assist. Buchnevich with a goal and an assist. Philip Peter with 2 assists. Kaapo Kakko with a goal and an assist. Chris Kreider with an assist. Alexi Lafreniere with an assist. Panarin with a 3-point first period. He had a goal and 3 assists. Strome added on a goal and assist. Mika Zibanejad had a goal and assist. Adam Fox with a goal and 2 assists. Gave that guy the Norris Trophy. And Trouba finished it out with 2 assists. And like I said, Panarin 1 goal and 3 assists. Just so good. As for today's games, we got the Oilers Senators. I'll give Oilers the win. Maple Leafs Canadians, give Maple Leafs the win. Wild Avalanche, give Wild the win, or Avalanche the win. Blues Golden Knights, I'll give Golden Knights the win. And then Kings Coyotes, I'll give Kings the win. And then as for the MLB, yesterday the Diamondbacks won, White Sox won, Padres won, Dodgers won, Red Sox won, Brewers won, Rangers won, Cardinals won, Reds won, Nationals won, Astros won, and Tigers won. Soda with the walk-off there. Mets won yesterday 8-4. They moved to 1-1 on the season. Stroman pitched really well. Like I mentioned, Stroman, he's a good pitcher. I think Stroman's a very good pitcher. The Yankees also won yesterday 7-2. He moved to 3-2 on the season. Big win. Judge led the way 3 for 5 with a run scored and 4 RBIs. LeMahieu also added on with a hit. Gardner also had a hit. He also had 2 walks. He had a double. Stan had 2 for 4. He had a single and a double and an RBI. All around, really good hitting. Everyone got a hit except Frazier, which can't complain because Frazier's had a really good start to the season. Bruce also had a hit. He had an RBI, had a home run. Urshela got a hit, and Higashioka was a couple inches away from a home run, had a double that bounced off the wall. And Judge obviously led the way when going 3 for 5. So, big day for him. Cole also with 13 strikeouts. As for today, we got the Nationals, Braves. I'm going to give Nationals the win. Braves are 0-4, so I'm going to give Nationals the win. Reds, Pirates, I'll give Reds the win. Red Sox, Rays, I'll give Red Sox the win. Actually, no, I'm going to give Rays the win. Rays the win. Actually, Red Sox. They've won the first 2 games of the series, so I'll give Red Sox the win. Royals, Indians, I'll give Royals the win. Twins, Tigers, give Twins the win. Blue Jays, Rangers, give Blue Jays the win. Cubs, Brewers, I'll give Brewers the win. Nationals, Braves, second half of the doubleheader. We know that Strasburg's going for the Nationals. Very rarely do you see a team sweep a doubleheader, win both games. But Strasburg going, I guess I'll give Nationals the win. It all depends on how the first game goes, is what I'll do there. So that's our first 7-inning doubleheader of the season. Then we got Dodgers, A's, I'll give Dodgers the win. Phillies, Mets, I'll give Phillies the win. They got Noel on the mound. Mets got Peterson. I'm going to give Phillies the win. Let's see. We got Cardinals, Marlins. I'll give Marlins the win. Padres, Giants. I'll give Padres the win. White Sox, Mariners. I'll give White Sox the win. And Diamondbacks, Rockies. I'll give Diamondbacks the win. Yankees also play today. Yankees come in this game 3-2. Orioles come in this game 3-2. This game comes on today, 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find this game on MLB Network along with Yes Network. This game comes on, John Means is on the mound for the Orioles, and Jameson Taillon's on the mound for the Yankees. The over-under is 9 for this game. Jameson Taillon, Jamo, is making his debut. I'll give the Yankees the win. Go for the sweep, as we're playing really well in this series. And as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 318 to 230, so going pretty good there. Today I've got going Will Smith, Gavin Lux, Gene Segura, Marcus Semien, Whit Merrifield, Jake Cronenworth, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Victor Robles, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Miguel, and Yerman Mercedes. And then, that's it there. Injury update here. Matt Olson's day today. Olson has a knee contusion, which is why he is out of Tuesday's lineup against the Dodgers. Matt Quahara of San Francisco Chronicle reports. So hopefully he gets better there. As for fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 441 to 390. Today I've got going Trae Young, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyrie Irving, Miles Turner, and Kemba Walker. And Bradley Beal, he's questionable, or Bradley Beal's out right now, but Beal hip is questionable for Wednesday's matchup against the Magic. Another injury update here. Kemba Walker scored 14 points to go along with 6 assists, all that. We'll see how it plays out. It was a back-to-back, so he's probably going to sit out today's game, which is frustrating because I could really use him. And Miles Turner's also injured, so Coach Nate Bjorken said Turner was diagnosed with a left ankle sprain after undergoing x-rays Tuesday. J. Michael of the Indianapolis Star reports. So we'll see how that plays out. And then we'll get to fantasy hockey here. I'm currently losing in fantasy hockey 52 to 40, so hopefully I can come back today. I've got going Anzez Kopitar, Braden Shan, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, David Perron, Jeff Petrie, Shea Theodorus, Shea Weber, Jacob Kitcherin, Justin Falk, and Adam Larson. And I've got Cam Talbot in goal. So fantasy hockey, I was a hot start, and then now I'm falling behind a little bit, but hopefully I can win. I got to find a way to get the win here. I want to go into playoffs on a high note, which would be great, but we'll see how it all plays out. Playoffs already start in fantasy hockey, so it doesn't matter how you get in. I guess it's just as long as you get in. But playoff hockey, it already starts up for fantasy. So, hockey, the Rangers only got 18 games left in the season, so it's not much left in the season. Not many games left, so which is why the trade deadline, to be honest, is pretty late in the year. Considering usually it's like halfway through the year. Usually trade deadline is like halfway through the year. With only playing 56 games, when the trade deadline happens, April 12th, Rangers are going to play? The Rangers are going to have 15 games left. So you're going to have a guy, it's going to be tough. And that player too that you trade won't even be able to play. Talk about trying to make a playoff push. Some of these guys that get traded, they might not even start playing until 12, 11 days left in the season. So it's going to be a full fight to the finish. And the Rangers got to continue to try to get some of these wins as they got 18 games left. But with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast as well. A lot of NHL news coming up, which should be good, followed by NFL draft. April's a packed month, usually. Got baseball starting up, NBA, NHL are using the full swing, and then you got hockey as well, like I said, and an NFL draft. So, packed sports again. With all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.